I'm Henem. I'm a performance nutritionist and I'm co-founder and co-owner of Macro Kitchen Bali. I also love training and in particular weightlifting. I'm a physiotherapist by trade and I started training myself. I started running and I started doing CrossFit when I was in my 30s, and that's how I started being interested into nutrition. So I started nutrition studies for myself. That's how I learned a lot about nutrition, and then I started coaching and helping people. I started running and a little bit of weightlifting, like lifting weight, not weightlifting, in the gym, just for the sake of being as lean as possible, as skinny as possible, and look good. I didn't really think about performance. And then, as you know, like back then, the skinnier the better. And then I started running into problems myself. So I lost my period. I was very low energy. I was not gaining any muscle and I was skinny fat, basically. I was very, very skinny, but no muscles. And then I started CrossFit, and that's where I saw how people were trying to fuel themselves differently to perform. And I started myself being interested more in performing rather than how the way I looked. And that's how I came across the importance of nutrition for performance. Well, that's where was the big mindset shift. I wanted to do things, and I realized that without fueling, I wouldn't be able to progress. So, and then I was like, what's most important for me now? Is it the way I look or the way I perform? And then I was more interested on improving my performance. And then actually, the look I was looking for came with me trying to chase performance. It didn't came when I was just trying to losing weight because I was underfueling and not eating enough, and I didn't manage to gain any shape that I was looking for. So yeah, chasing the performance actually gave me the look that I wanted. Yeah, for women in particular, they are scared and afraid from lifting weights because they don't want to look bulky or big. But actually, it's really hard for women to gain muscles, and they need lots of work, lots of food to be able to gain muscle. So taking that into practice for myself and saw how hard it was to gain muscle and how much food I needed was an eye-opening process. So I think the most common one across like men and women is cut carbs to lose weight. You don't need to eat carbs if you want to lose weight or you want to cut weight for a fight or something. Actually, it doesn't really matter. It does matter to have enough carbs to fuel your training, and if you want to cut the weight, you need to cut the calories. So there is a time and a place for cutting the carbs, but actually the carbs are a very important macronutrient when it comes to performance. So we actually need to eat enough carbs to be able to perform, and also to keep the carbs even if we're trying to lose the weight, to be able to still train hard and perform. But we need to get the calories under control so we can lose the weight if we need to lose weight. The other misconception, I think, is fasted training. So fasted training is very popular right now, and people think that if they skip breakfast or eat only 8 hours a day, they're going to magically lose weight. But it's actually not magic. It can be a tool in the toolbox for losing weight, because if you eat in less hours during the day, you might be eating less calories, but you might not as well. So some people don't lose any weight because they overeat in that eating window. I would say for women, it's even more harmful, detrimental if you fast, because most studies that have been done on fasting previously were done on men. They didn't see like lots of harm, but now that most studies are done on women, we see that it's actually really bad for women because we have different hormones, so that affects our hormones. Especially in like not eating in the morning when you train, eating fasted, you're not giving yourself the fuel needed to train hard, and also you put yourself in a catabolic state. So after nights of fasting, like you didn't eat during the night, and then you start your day with a training session, not having any fuel, you're gonna be in a catabolic state. So you're not gonna be building, you're gonna be breaking down. So having a pre-workout meal is very, very important to be able to retain muscle mass and build muscle mass. Calories are the energy that you put in, and calories out is what we expend during training. There was I don't know why, this magic number of 1,200 calories. I keep having it all the time. And it's first of all, it's not even enough to be able to survive. So we always have a basal metabolic rate, so like in a minimum of calories that you should have during the day to be able to just breathe and be sitting down, not doing anything. And on top of that, you're going to add the calories that we expend during training. So if the goal is to lose weight, of course we need to be on a calorie deficit. So we need to eat less than we expend. But we don't want to be eating too low, because then we run into many problems. What we call low energy availability is a very common problem, especially in women. So the women would be training a lot and eating very low. And actually, sometimes they get into a point where they don't lose any weight anymore, Evaluating how many calories you need to fuel your activity is very important. And going on a small deficit that still keep you losing weight if the goal is to lose weight, but without running into low energy availability. What would happen in low energy availability is we're going to run into many health problems. So what would happen there is the body is going to shut down systems that actually essential for health to be able to allow you to train. So training is perceived as a threat, as a stressor, yeah? So when we're training, the body is in a fight or flight mode. So the body wants to keep you able to do that fight or that weightlifting or that thing that is hard, because it's perceived as a threat. So to do that, it takes the energy to do that activity. So sometimes you don't even notice that you have a drop in performance in the beginning. You might be improving performance in the beginning, and until you hit the point where you cannot perform anymore. But then what's going to happen is other systems are going to be shutting down. So you're going to be, sometimes we see it very often that women would lose the periods. So sex hormones, low libido, we can have digestive problems, we can have bone mineral density decrease. So mood, anxiety, mood swings and stuff like that. So that's the body shutting down other systems to allow you to still train. And then when it's chronic, when it's for a long time, we run into what we call RED-S. It means it's a syndrome that comes from long-term low energy availability. For women as well, the difference is we need more calories than men before we get into that state, So for women, for example, if they eat less than 30 calories per kilo of free fat mass, lean body mass, they would run into low energy availability symptoms. For men, they can go as low as 20 or 15, and for a longer period of time before they run into low energy availability problems. So that's to show how we need to actually eat more to avoid health problems. As you said, for the yo-yo dieting, so people would cut calories too low, they would lose a substantial amount of weight. What's going to happen after they stop the diet? They're going to get back to the old habit, and they're going to put the weight back, or even more weight back. So that's going to be low and higher, low and higher, low and higher. They would end up with more weight at the end. If they do a more sustainable weight loss, so they would lose weight more gradually. It takes a long time. It needs patience. It might be go up and down a little bit, but the trend is always going down. But build habits, build good relationship with food that would allow them to keep the weight off and to maintain their body weight. So also what is important when we're trying to lose weight, also for fighters, is to try to lose the weight from fat rather than just losing weight. So we want to keep our lean tissue, our muscles, and then lose the fat. That's a completely different process. Just lose weight or lose fat. That's a concept of itself. So losing just fat, we need two things. We need to have enough protein, and we need to do resistance training. So stimulate the muscles to say, hey, we need you, stay there. And then give them enough protein to be able to build them and to maintain them. That's essential. Having the calorie deficit and then enough protein to keep the lean mass and doing the resistance training is what's going to allow, and also a calorie deficit that is small enough, that's allow a gradual and slower weight loss that is more sustainable on the long term. For fighters, an important point is for women. So losing the weight, cutting the weight for a fight, might be harder depending on the cycle. It's very important for girls to have the talk with the coach and with the nutritionist, if there is a nutritionist, to understand what's happening, because most of them might not know that around their ovulation they might be retaining more water weight. Around their period they might be retaining more water weight, and that has to be taken in consideration if they have to cut and in that period of time. So tracking that weight, I know that sometimes, for girls can be like a little bit, it's hard for the mind to be weighing yourself all the time. But in this particular case, it's very important because you are performing in a weight sport. So you need to know what's happening. So if you track your weight, you will see the trend that every cycle, for example, around ovulation, I put on 1 kilo. And every time before my period, I put on 1 kilo as well. Some girls don't put on a weight on the ovulation, so you need to know that. So when the fight comes, you would see, okay, it's happening here, so I have to take into consideration that kilo that's going to be up, and then I would do everything to be at this weight before the fight, so I don't get into struggle. Also, like another thing is the stress that comes with getting closer to fight. That also may, for women, add more water retention. So for women, I would say the smartest way to go is not to do crazy weight cuts, to be close to the weight class that you want to compete at. So when you cut the weight, it's not a huge amount of weight, because it can happen that with the stress, with the water weight retention, it's just hard. And especially if they are not eating enough carbs to start with, not enough fibers to start with, there is nothing to cut from. So being fueled during fight camp, having enough carbs, having enough fibers would allow us, as we get closer to fight, to have room and food and water and to cut from. So the more aggressive is the weight cut, the more chance you have to lose more muscle tissue. So if you do it repetitively, then you're going to end up with less muscle mass. Then you're going to have less room to lose weight. So that's what. And also, like, if you do it many times in a row and the wrong way, you're going to run into metabolic adaptation. So the body's going to be stubborn, don't want to get there anymore. So it's going to be much harder to lose weight. So for cutting weight, I would say a rough number would be 0.5% to 1%. It's not a number, it's a percentage of your body weight, kilo per week. And for women, I would go lower end for weight cut, like for weight cut in general. And then for the water cut in closer to the fight week, I would say 2 to 3% maximum, like 2% I would say for women. It would be the safest because of what can happen with water retention and stuff. So yeah, that's the safe range to think about when it comes to weight cut. For performance, the most important thing is carbs. Of course, protein to keep the lean mass, but for performing, it's the energy. So having enough carbs to fuel your performance is a must. So having a high carb meal before training and after training is very important. If we're doing double session, it's even more important to get that post-workout meal the closest to the morning training session, because you want to replenish your glycogen stores. You're going to be recovering for the next session. If you're not training in the evening, it's fine. You have up to 2 hours, but if you have a double session, the closest, the better. Fighters would be more prone to be careful and scared of carbs, but actually you can cycle carbs. So the days where you train a lot, have more carbs. The day where you train less, have less carbs. The day when you don't train, maybe have less carbs. But it's essential to have enough carbs to fuel your performance. And you actually, if you start doing this, you would feel the difference, and you will not put any weight on. It's fuel for performance. So creatine is a very important one for fighters. So when we train, we use ATP. Yeah. So creatine brings that energy. Yeah. It brings that energy to give you the possibility to train harder, to gain strength, and to perform better. However, when it saturates the muscle, it comes with a little bit of water. But it's actually not water retention, that the bad water retention we think of. It's intracellular water retention. So it rehydrates the cell. That will allow better recovery, a better performance, a strength gains. So it comes with a little bit of weight gain. It also different from person to person. Some people would gain 500 grams. Some people would gain 1 kilo. Some people maybe won't gain any weight. But it's actually just happens in the beginning, and it's not going to keep going. So once your muscle are saturated with creatine, it's just going to stabilize. So that's why I say if you want to start taking creatine, take it away from fight camp. So we have that gain in the beginning, and then we can take it in consideration during our weight loss. And then it's just not going to affect our making the weight. So girls might be afraid of creatine, but I would say like everyone should take creatine, and especially fighters, because It also have a brain protective effect. So we show recent studies that show that after a concussion, there is better recovery if you're supplementing with creatine. But if you start taking it after the concussion, it's too late. So you have to be taking it before. And then that's going to protect you from brain damage. I advise my mom, my grandmom, everybody should taking it because there is now like showing more like a brain protective effect for older people, lean tissue retention for older people, even if they don't do a lot of activity, even if like with 2 or 3 sessions of strength training, they show more lean tissue when they take creatine. So it's the most studied and researched supplement, and everybody should be taking it. The only thing that people might ask is, oh, do I need to load it? Because before we say you have to load 20 grams a day for a couple of weeks, then you can take 5 grams a day. That might come with more water retention, and you actually don't need to if you don't have, for example, sometimes it can be advised when an athlete comes to you and he has a competition very soon and he wants to load. He's not been taking creatine and he wants to load it as fast as possible. But if you're not in a rush, 5 grams a day, and you don't need to load it. Working with a nutritionist is going to take away the guesswork. So you just give the responsibility to the professional to check how many calories do you need, how much protein do you need, how much carbs do you need for recovery, how much fat do you need for your health, and then you just need to focus on your training. Yeah, sometimes we just try to follow trends or follow what other people do, but actually nutrition has to be customized to your own needs, to your own training, to your own goal. I do coach people in Bali through Macro Kitchen. So they come to us for a meal plan, and then they would get a nutrition consultation with me. Then we would give them what we recommend, the macro prescription for them, and then they actually get the food from us. But we actually do nutrition coaching online, me and Matt. So people would get in touch with through our Instagram, and then we walk them through the process, how we can work together for nutrition and also training with Matt.